What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another podcast on the channel. Today we are joined by my good friend Star Bazaar. How are you doing, man?
Hello there. I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
No worries. It's been a while since I've been trying to get you on, but we finally worked out a time, and I'm definitely keen to get into it. There's a lot of stuff to talk about today.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm happy to be on, man.
So for those watching, I don't know when this video is going to go up, but for those watching this, we're pretty much recording this like 6 hours after the big announcement. So I wasn't really planning on too much Battlefront stuff, but obviously I didn't know that was all coming. So a lot of Battlefront stuff. We're going to talk a bit about Fallen Order as well. A little bit of Episode 9 stuff as well, because that's only about 2 weeks from today, I think. And then we'll talk about a little bit of YouTube stuff at the end as well. So we're going to jump straight into it. Obviously, the big announcement, the main thing that I think people are taking out of it is the addition of BB-8 and BB-9E. What are your thoughts on the addition of those two?
Yeah, man, I absolutely love it. And I think that might be an unpopular opinion right now. I've been seeing Reddit kind of go a little bit bonkers over the announcement of the 2 new heroes. People are wondering if it's like a tease for Poe and Hux. Like, are we seriously getting BB-8 and BB-9E? But yeah, I think Ben basically confirmed that no, this is not a trick, nothing like that. They are legitimately going to be heroes, and I think that's cool. That's super unique.
Yeah, I've seen, like you said, I've seen almost more negativity, I think, than positivity. I think more people are probably positive, but that's just how it is with, like, you know, negative stuff. It generally stands out more. But
right, negativity is usually more vocal. Yeah,
exactly. I've definitely seen a lot of it, and to a degree, I can understand, like, they're not characters that anyone, like, I don't think anyone really ever said, I want BB-8 in the game, but like right. You said, you just said on Twitter, Nine Numb and Greedo, they got roasted for adding those two, and if you ask anyone what their favourite characters are, most people are going to say those two from Battlefront 2015, so it is definitely a little bit of a, you know, I guess a strange thing to do, but I think it's, you know, if we had got, a lot of people are saying Poe and Hux, and I wouldn't say no to them, but to me they're just not that much different than Han and characters like that, whereas these two are just completely unique. And
right, exactly. So far we've only got 2 classes of heroes, Saber and Blaster, and these guys are neither, so I think that's really cool. I guess Palpatine too.
Oh yeah, that's true. But yeah, these are just like, I don't know. I didn't first of all, I didn't expect heroes at all. When I saw the original tweet and Ben said new heroes, I was like, what the hell? That was the least like thing that I expected.
Yeah. And
then yeah, my reaction too, like when I read it, I was a bit like, what the hell? This is kind of weird, but I don't know. I think people are kind of overreacting right now, and I don't know, maybe we'll be wrong, maybe they'll be just terrible characters, but at the end of the day, they're characters that no one expected. We kind of all thought that the heroes were done for now, and so I don't know, to me, getting new heroes is better than not getting heroes, if you ask me.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I'm happy with the addition. I think they're good. We'll just have to see how they play when they actually arrive.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm sort of questioning is like how they're going to work. I guess they'll be kind of similar to droidekas in a way, just rolling around. But then as for their attacks and all that kind of thing, I'm not too sure. I'm going to guess they will both have some sort of like zap, you know, like the little taser sort of thing, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but at least for me, I'm keen for just some different gameplay. That'll just be fun, even if they're just terrible. Like if they suck, it'll still just be fun. It's kind of like droidekas, how, you know, they weren't that great on launch, and they're still not that great, but they're different and they're fun.
Right, definitely. I'm probably more stoked for the memes of BB-8 absolutely demolishing Darth Vader in a HVV.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people bring that up too. That's one thing, like, I get in terms of the immersion, I do understand why people are a little bit, like, you know, not sure about it, because it is weird. It's seeing BB-8 go up against characters like that, it is strange, but I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see, and like I said, if it fails, if they're not good characters, no one was really expecting them anyway, so I don't think it's like a big loss if they end up sucking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. Now, with that news came, I mean, there was so much to talk about, but for me, one of the biggest things was the Celebration Edition, which for us, like, it's probably not that big instantly, because most of us already have most of the skins and stuff, but what this could mean for the game is pretty massive, if you ask me. I think this could really, like, I'm not going to say revive the game, because it's not like it's dead, but it could really bring some new life to the game and bring a bunch of new players, and also just a lot of new money to DICE, which means they can support the game longer and stuff. So what are your thoughts on the actual announcement of that Celebration Edition?
I 100% agree with you. I think it's fantastic, and I'm actually really bummed for DICE that news got leaked a couple of days early. That was probably something that they were really excited to announce, and then it ended up getting leaked, and I could definitely tell that a couple of the devs were pretty upset about that. But I mean, I'm just happy that this is actually happening. I think it's a great idea. It's a 2-year birthday, essentially, for Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I think this is a great way to celebrate that. It'll bring a bunch of new players in. It'll have them with all of the skins right out the gate. Sure, they'll still have to grind and, level up and get their star cards leveled up, but I mean, there's no loot boxes anymore, so that's entirely done through gameplay, and I think this is good.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I mentioned this in my video earlier this morning, that let's just say they were to sell 100,000 copies, right, which is not even that much when you think about how many games, how many units this is sold. I think it's something like 17 million or something like that. So 100,000 sounds like heaps, but I honestly think that's not even that much. If it sold 100,000 at $40 US, that's $4 million for DICE, which, I mean, I don't know what they're all getting paid, but surely that's going to cover their wages for quite a while, maybe most of the year or even a full year. I don't know how many people are working there, and I don't know what they get per year, but $4 million is a nice little injection into a 2-year-old game. So to me, it's like, if it does well, and maybe it won't, maybe it just won't sell, but if it sells even semi-decent, like, that could mean very big things for the game, because that could just mean a whole extra year of content that we might not have gotten otherwise.
That's my thoughts exactly. If this is successful, which I expect it to be, I mean, there are many people playing this game since 2017, but I mean, this will introduce a lot of new players, and I think if the reception's good, then this just spells, even more content for the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also the timing is really good with the Rise of Skywalker, because
yes,
we all know what it's like, especially like the more casual player base, or younger kids or anything. Like, if you go and see the movie, and then before it starts you see an ad for a Battlefront game and it looks really cool, a new trailer and stuff, like, you're going to be like, oh shit, after I finish the movie I'm going to go home and buy that. And
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's just perfect. Yeah, exactly. Especially with like the new content too, because the Sith Troopers and the new skins and stuff, that like, I'm pretty sure they're doing a new trailer. I don't think it's actually confirmed, but I know that Ben was kind of like sort of teasing about it.
Yeah, he was asked about it, and I think he responded with like that shrugging dude.
Which to me that says yes, because like he would just say no or not reply to me. So to me, exactly. Again, it's not confirmed, but to me that means it's most likely going to happen. Which, yeah, like I said, if you go to see the Rise of Skywalker opening weekend and you're not a Battlefront player, and then you see this really cool trailer with all the new stuff like the Sith Troopers and all that kind of thing, you're going to be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And especially for the price, like, I think it's pretty... I know it's a 2-year-old game, but I think the price is pretty decent for what we get. I worked it out that just the hero skins alone, not even all the other trooper skins, just the hero ones, if you had to pay for them with money, it would cost you nearly $300, or you can get every single skin for $40. So
yeah,
it's
that's
a pretty
one hell
decent
of a deal.
offer. Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. I think for me, this is probably the biggest part of this whole announcement. Like, I actually think this is the most exciting thing, because
the Celebration Edition.
Yeah, just like the vibe around the community the last, I don't know, maybe month or two, it has kind of felt like this could be getting towards the end. But now with this, it's like the possibilities are kind of endless. We could get a whole extra year, and hell, if it sells amazing, like, we could even get more than that. That's obviously pushing it a bit, but I don't know. I think that's, for me, that's the main thing I'm excited about, even though, like, personally it doesn't even affect me that much because I've already got most of the skins anyway.
Right, and that's the only downside that I could think of would be for long-time players who already have everything, who've got 1 million plus credits built up. It's like, we're not really getting anything out of this, but I still, like, as one of those people, I still think it's a really cool thing, and I'm glad it's happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might feel that way too, but I think hopefully they can realise that this is kind of us current players taking a bit of a hit to increase the game's lifespan. Like right now, we're not getting maybe as much as we could have if they put that focus onto more content. Like this month we might get more, but if we take a hit this month and we don't really get as much, it also could mean that the next whole year we get way more than we could have. So
right,
yeah, I definitely think it's a good thing, but we'll see how it plays out, because maybe it just won't sell, and maybe on the other hand, if it doesn't sell, maybe like this could spell the end. Who knows? But it's definitely interesting to see what's going to happen. Yeah, exactly. Now this question kind of leads from the last one. With this, the celebration news as well as just the Rise of Skywalker stuff, what do you think the future of Battlefront 2 actually looks like now?
Yeah, in the transmission for all of this stuff, I think it was a CT. I think Ben was advertising it as a CT. But they mentioned content coming in January, February, and March. And for the Feb and March stuff, they said that they would talk about that closer to the time, which basically confirms we're getting content for those first 3 months. I think it's safe to say that we are getting content all throughout 2020. It might be more spaced out, but I mean, especially with the release of the Celebration Edition, I think it would be foolish to slow down. So I think the future is bright, at least for the next year.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. Like I said earlier, the vibe was kind of just feeling like with Fallen Order coming out and there was not much content and stuff, it kind of felt like, oh no, this could be the end, but this is just, for me, I'm kind of the same. It's almost like an extra year. Again, not confirmed or anything, but to me, it seems like there'll be at least 6 months, surely. They're not going to do 3 months and then just stop in March or something. Like, they're going to
right.
surely do at least till the middle of the year. And if they do that, then I just don't see why they wouldn't go to the end of the year at least. So we'll see what happens, like I said. But I don't know. For me, this is very exciting times, because the last few months had been a little bit like dry, and I think everyone was kind of feeling that way towards the end.
Definitely.
Now, the last question for Battlefront is it's kind of a loaded question, but if you could have any 3 things added or changed in Battlefront, what would they be?
I'm happy you ask. Only one thing immediately comes to mind, something that I would change, and it's something that I've been pushing for pretty much since the game launched, and unfortunately I don't think there's a fix for it, because I think it's a fundamental flaw with the Frostbite engine. But I would want the way that the character models interact with the environment. I want that to change. Let me give you an example. Yesterday I was playing a game of Capital Supremacy with General Grievous, I think it was, and I was kind of on one of those ramps on Camino. It's like, when you're going up to the landing pads, it's got that curved ramp where you can climb up it.
Oh, yeah.
So I was getting backed up onto that ramp. I was getting attacked by 2 lightsaber heroes, and as I stepped onto the ramp, my block dropped, I couldn't dodge, and I couldn't move, all because my character model didn't know how to interact with the terrain, and I died as a result. It was nothing I could have done, it was just the nature of the game, and so that would be the biggest thing I would change, is the interaction between character models and the map, the environment.
Yeah, that's something that I personally wouldn't have even really thought of, but that is massive. Not only just for that, like where you said about the blocks, it seems like when you're falling, which is, I guess that's why, because it's kind of like you can't block when you jump. When you connect with those things, it kind of acts like you're falling and it drops the block. But not only that, but I just find there's so many things you can get stuck on, or like you can't get up certain hills that you should be able to, or whatever. There's a lot of stuff in relation to the character models and the terrain that, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work. It's almost like they focus too much on the maps looking really good and really realistic, rather than sort of, and I can't blame them for that, but it's almost like they focus on that more than functionality, like trying to make it actually work. So that is a very good point. I would definitely, like, it's almost not even a bug, like it's something that they surely can somehow fix, and it surely wouldn't come back like most of the other bugs. So that's definitely a big fix that they could do.
I mean, like I said, I heard that it's just a fundamental flaw with the Frostbite engine, because I've been told that other games that work with Frostbite have basically the same issues. Like, I've heard people who play Battlefield 5, they also get stuck on the environment. Weird stuff like that will happen when they can't climb over something that it looks like they should be able to, but they'll just get hung up on it instead and they can't move. So I think it's got something to do with Frostbite, but I really don't know.
Yeah, Frostbite definitely seems like it's got a lot of positives, but it definitely seems to have a lot of those little issues as well. Because the same is this, like, it's the case with Battlefield 5 too. There's a lot of like when you vault over, like half walls or whatever, you're trying to jump over, and sometimes like your player will do the animation, and you'll go kind of through the wall, but then you'll be like rubber banded back, and yeah, it's
interesting.
A lot of the same, like it's kind of different, but it's a lot of the same stuff. So I think you're right there about it. Like it's definitely got to be something to do with the Frostbite engine.
Yeah, well, that would be my biggest fix. I would say stun locks, but they've kind of remedied that. They have that new thing where if you get hit by a melee, you can't get stunned by another one for like a second and a half or something. That's pretty good. I was complaining about stun locks for the longest time, but recently I haven't had a problem.
Yeah, I feel like they've done a lot of those very small little changes, not only the stun locks, but also the stun abilities too. I feel like they've changed those a lot too. They were just really bad at one point. There was like...
Definitely.
I remember characters like Lando and stuff were just like unbeatable, because if you just got stunned, they could kill you without being able to block, so...
Oh yeah, I raged over Lando's many times in my day.
Him and Aiden were just... they were unbeatable.
Aiden's still pretty bad. I think her stun was the only one that never got touched, except for the cooldown time.
Yeah, I think her stun actually didn't change, did it? And because she's got the ion shot with the unblockable shot, like that's, even when you get out of the stun, if you've taken half your health off, then yeah, you're in a bit of strife, that's for sure.
Aiden's pretty OP.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we're going to move on to some Fallen Order stuff. I need to say, before we get into this, if you are listening and you haven't played Fallen Order, or you don't want spoilers or anything like that, then I would definitely either click off the video, or I'll try and leave a timestamp for when we move on from Fallen Order, because I know a lot of people still haven't finished it, so there will most likely be spoilers in this. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy Fallen Order?
I loved Fallen Order. I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10, and the only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is because of a lack of post-game. That's the only reason it doesn't get a perfect score. But gameplay, the story, the visuals, the music, it was everything I could have asked for out of a Star Wars game that focuses on Jedi gameplay. Like, I thought they nailed it.
Yeah, I think I almost agree 100% with that. I think that most of it was like really solid, and I don't think there's that much that you can, critique in terms of a lot of the areas. But like you said, the post-game stuff, as in once you finish the story, and even to a degree the length of the story, I don't think it was too short, but it could have been longer for sure. Like, I think a lot of us felt that. I think that's because we were enjoying it too, which is a good thing.
Yes, definitely.
I didn't finish it and think like, oh, that was really short, but I also finished thinking like, oh, I would love to play another like 3 or 4 hours of the story. So that's something else you could probably critique for me. But again, it wasn't an issue. Like, I didn't finish and be like, oh, that was way too short.
Yeah, I had basically the same feeling. I also kind of took a little bit of time with the exploration. I didn't 100% it my first time through. I think I finished with like 88, 89% or something. But all the extra time you spend exploring will definitely tack on to the total playtime, and I think that's part of the enjoyment too. Yeah,
for sure. Now, kind of like leading on from that question, what aspects of the game would you say were your favourite parts of the game?
Yeah, so I know it's not unique, but the combat system really surprised me. I didn't really know what to expect going into it, and like I had seen the gameplay from E3 or wherever it was first promoted at, and I was looking at it and I was kind of trying to imagine how the gameplay would work. Like, do you control the direction that the lightsaber goes, like Jedi Academy, or like how does that work? And when I finally got my hands on it and I figured out that it's basically mostly about timing, I thought that was just a winner for me. I was sold. I'm all about like precision moves and like doing the right thing at the right time, and it was just my cup of tea. So I was really happy with the combat system.
Yeah, for me that's the same. The combat was other than maybe the story, I really liked the story, but the combat was probably the next like thing that I really loved. And like you said about all the precision timing and stuff, the fact that it was not just like Battlefront where it's like hack and slash, that was really enjoyable for me. Just there was like an extra layer of skill to it where like when I started I was absolutely terrible and I was losing so many boss fights and stuff.
Me too.
And then as you practice, you actually get so much better with it, and it feels so rewarding. It's kind of like, I don't know, it makes the game so much better that you can improve within a single player game, because most single player games it's kind of like you just go through the motions, but this one it did feel like you could actually improve Cal over time, and it kind of, it almost like benefited the story too, because he starts off obviously not as powerful, and then as you get better and better, it kind of suits the story. So
definitely
for me that was the same
as a Jedi. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. The fact that it was so like thoughtful, and it actually took, it's not like it was super hard to be good at, but it's like you do have to think about what you're doing, and coming from Battlefront, that it was definitely something that we needed, because like I don't think there's too much wrong with the Battlefront combat because of the style of the game. I think it's not terrible, but like it's just not in depth. It's just like a block and attack and dodge. That's really all there is to it. So having all the different timing and the different little, different types of attacks and different combos and stuff, I thought that was really well done. And yeah, for me that was probably the same. It was probably one of the best parts for sure.
Have you played it on Grandmaster yet?
Yeah, I'm doing actually a playthrough on, like, I'm gonna do the whole thing on stream. I've done the first episode, and I have played a little bit on Grandmaster as well, and it's so much more enjoyable, because it's like, really is like, if you mistime something, you die. So
it's pretty intense. Yeah,
I've been loving it. It's I think I don't usually play most games on the hardest difficulty. I usually just kind of play on like normal, or maybe the second hardest or whatever, but for this, it's like, it just feels so rewarding when you actually get the timing right and all that kind of thing, and it feels more realistic, I guess. Like if you're fighting a boss and you miss a block, then they just kill you, and it makes sense. So Grandmaster is definitely Ogdo is the worst.
Damn that frog.
Yeah, for sure. Now on the other side of that, what aspects of the game would you say were your least favorite?
Once again, probably just the lack of a post-game. I was really especially bummed out at the fact that you can't, spoiler alert, you can't refight the final boss once you beat her. You beat the game, and all you can do at that point is 100% it, but you can't revisit boss fights, you can't even revisit the final fight, and that took me by surprise, because I compared this game to a lot of other games like Ocarina of Time, Kingdom Hearts, a lot of other, third-person story-driven games, and you can always refight the final boss after you beat the game. So I was a little bit surprised that you couldn't do that here.
Yeah, I actually was a little surprised by that too, because when you finish it actually says on the screen, like, you can't go back to the Inquisitor's Fortress, but it says, like, it leaves the story off where you were before that. So it's kind of saying that, like, this, once you finish, the story is, like, not, it's almost like it's not real, it's not canon. So there's no reason they couldn't have just put it so that when you go to the spot where the boss fights are, you can just stand on like a little meditation point or something and choose to do the boss fight again. I thought that was definitely strange. It wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't too big of a deal for me, but it was definitely like, I would just like the option, I guess. So
yeah,
that's definitely one thing for me. And the other thing, I wouldn't say I was unhappy with it, but the other thing that I would have loved to be more in depth was the skill tree. I would have loved if there was a little bit more like freedom to make it so that not everyone is gonna, because at the end of the game, like, everyone kind of has roughly the same style. It would have been cool if you could do like, you only have, throughout the story, you only earn enough skill points to like unlock one side of the skill tree, for example. Like if you want to max out all your saber combat, like you have to spend it all on that rather than kind of just getting a bunch of everything. So I can see why they didn't do that at the same time, because then if you just focus on, say, lightsaber combat, you're not getting the force abilities and stuff. So I see why they did it, but I would have liked to have, then it means you can kind of just have like 3 playthroughs where, say, one you focus on lightsaber combat, one you focus on the force, and then maybe the next one you kind of do like a combination or something. So that was one thing I wouldn't say I was disappointed with, but I just wish it was a little bit more in depth, I guess.
Yeah, no, I had the same thoughts. I agree. I do like the fact that you can unlock the whole skill tree, but it definitely would have given it some more replay value. If, like, your first playthrough, like you said, you maxed out all your saber skills, and then your second time you focus more on the force, that would be interesting. You could have essentially 2 different playthroughs,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be the same thing every time.
To the replayability, I feel like it's almost like two different playthroughs. It's like a lot of games have that where, games like, say, Skyrim or stuff like that, where you can kind of just play one playthrough and then the next one is just completely different. You don't do anything the same other than the actual story.
Right.
So that would have been cool to see, but again, it didn't. I wasn't really disappointed by it. It was just something that, I guess, a lot of the stuff in the game was really good. So there's obviously, you kind of have to reach for things that you wanted to improve, and that was one of them for me.
Definitely. Yeah. It didn't take away too much from me, but it's definitely a fair criticism.
Yeah, for sure. Now, again, this is very spoiler heavy. What did you think of the final boss reveal?
So, the second sister, she takes her mask off actually about halfway through the game, and the first time she's revealed, my initial thought was, damn, girl! I was kind of crushing on the second sister a little bit, so I thought she was fine. And she's also very cool. She has a very compelling backstory. Like, she's actually a very good crafted villain. Star Wars can sometimes have a little bit of a villain problem in terms of like their backstory and like their motivations. A lot of the time they're just evil for the sake of being evil, but Trilla actually had a really decent backstory. I appreciated that.
Yeah, I thought she was almost like in a way a similar but different version of Anakin, in that like she had this troubled past where she just kind of like found herself getting turned for almost like it wasn't her decision, like she just kind of had to do it. And I thought that was really cool, and it made her character really, much more in depth rather than just being like the big bad for no reason. It felt like she had a reason to be angry and all that kind of thing. So to me, she was probably one of my favorite characters in the whole game. And the little sort of backstory stuff that you hear throughout the little flashbacks and all that was that definitely added to her character.
I appreciated how personal it was too, because it's like you almost have a connection with her since you guys share a master in common. Cal and the second sister, I mean, they were both apprentices to Seer, and that's kind of like a connecting thread, so it doesn't just feel like a random bad guy. It's like you have kind of an unspoken history with her, which is cool.
It almost had similarities to Rey and Kylo, I thought, actually. The fact that they kind of link through Luke in a way, and it's like they don't technically know each other, but then they do know each other, and they have that little like some sort of connection that makes their rivalry a little bit better, I guess. So
Certainly.
That's definitely a good point. On top of that, what were your thoughts when Vader appeared at the end? Because that for me that was crazy.
It was insane, man. I lost it. I was kind of expecting it when the camera focused on Trilla, and you can kind of see the blurriness in the background, and you see the smoke coming down. It's like I almost expected it, but then when he actually showed up, it was incredible. Took the air right out of the room. Cal and Seer are like, "Oh, we are screwed. You would be wise to surrender." It was brilliant. I loved it.
I thought he was done so perfectly. Like, he was so powerful, but I was worried that like you would be able to beat him. Like maybe damage him enough that you could escape or something, but it was literally just you had no chance whatsoever.
No
and then
chance
at all. Cal just kind of like pulls this quick little move and you escape, and that I thought he was done. Honestly, 10 out of 10. I don't think they could have done him any better.
Right. No, I'm right there with you, man. I thought Vader was handled beautifully. I love how they make him just an unstoppable force. That's how he should be portrayed. The only people who can go toe-to-toe with him should be Luke Skywalker and Palpatine, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was cool. There was a lot of little twists and turns there with right at the end where Seer sort of comes back and she uses that like dark side sort of force move on him, and he's like, bends him down, and I was like, oh shit, like surely she's not gonna, hurt him enough to make it an issue, but he just like he didn't even care about it. He just
brushed it right off, stood right up, complimented her.
He was literally saying to her like, oh, well done and shit. He was like, oh, this is good. And then he just walked towards her, and she just realized like, oh shit, I literally can't do anything. That was my trump card, and he just walked straight through it. So I was, man, that to me, I can't even explain how much I love. That was for me my favorite ending to a video game of all time. I reckon that was just like when I heard the respirator and stuff. I was like a little kid, man. I lost it. It was so good. Now leading on to that question, kind of at the ending of the game, it does leave a few little loose ends. Do you think we will get a sequel down the line, or what do you think the go is with that?
So, based on the success and popularity of this game, I think a sequel is definitely in the cards. I wanted to make a video on this actually, because if you look at the title, Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order, that first part is really interesting. Star Wars Jedi: It's almost as if the Fallen Order was added on after the fact. So to me, that seems like Star Wars Jedi could be a game series or a game franchise all by itself, with new installations, like every year, every 2 years maybe, and not even necessarily Fallen Order 2. Like, we could have something entirely different, like, I don't know, maybe we could pick up after Ezra's story in Star Wars Rebels. We could pick up after Season 4. Spoiler alert for Star Wars Rebels, Ezra and Thrawn are, hyperspaced into who knows where. We don't know where they ended up. We know they're still alive. I think a video game where you, start as a fully fledged Jedi, as Ezra, would be really interesting. It'd be kind of different from Fallen Order.
That's a really, really good idea. I've actually never thought of that. That would be really cool. And about the title, I absolutely agree. When they first announced the title, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, is this... It just seemed weird. It was very it's almost hard to get out. Like, there's a lot of words in there, but it seems like that's so that you can interchange the last word. So it could be Fallen Order, and then the next one could be, I don't know, Rise of the Order or something. And there's a continual change of that last part. So that's definitely something that I'd be keen for. And the other thing, like you said, it doesn't actually... I've heard a lot of people saying that there could be sequels with Cal, and there could be, but it would be cool to have a different story every time and just make it a series of, pretty much just any Jedi that survived Order 66, and make it all almost make it kind of like a comic series in a way, where there's a bunch of different little stories, and throughout the games we kind of learn all of them, and they can maybe all tie together. So maybe, if there is Ezra and stuff, maybe Cal can meet Ezra and just have a little cameo, and then their stories intertwine somehow, and then if there's another one after that, all those characters can kind of just have little bits to do with the next character. So there's definitely potential there, and like you said, the success of the game, it's done way better than I thought it would. It's been getting 9 point, some people have given it genuine 10 out of 10s from I don't know if it was IGN, or there was a bunch of those companies that were giving it genuine 10 out of 10. So it's obviously done pretty well. I haven't really heard too many people saying they disliked it. There's a lot of, little criticisms, which is fair enough. It wasn't perfect, but most of what we hear is it was really good. So personally, I think they'd be dumb to not make a sequel to it. And I mean, if they all just keep going like that, I think it could be a pretty decent series, I think.
They could even go the other way and maybe do Star Wars Sith, Risen Order or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a story about some secret Sith that existed, and we could have a video game about that. But yeah, I think the possibilities are virtually limitless with a series like that. I'd be into it.
Yeah, definitely, and honestly, anything that's similar to Fallen Order is just an instant buy for me. I wouldn't even have to think about it, because it was
you and me both.
Really solid game. Probably one of my favourite games ever, honestly. Probably in my top 10, I would say. So any sequels, I would definitely love to see that. Now, moving on to the episode 9 stuff. Like I said, we're about, I think, at least in Australia, it's pretty much 2 weeks from today. I think you guys get it a day after us or something. Obviously, the sequel trilogy has had its ups and downs, but are you excited for episode 9? And if so, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited would you say you are?
I am very excited for episode 9, and that's coming from somebody who was deeply disenfranchised with episode 8. I didn't have very many nice things to say. I've been pretty vocal about it. I won't talk about that here, but episode 9 looks incredible, and I'm probably a good 8 to 9 out of 10 on the excitement level. I think the marketing is a little bit too aggressive. I will say that, and it almost kind of reveals their hand that they're maybe a little bit worried about how episode 9 is going to go. It's just a little bit telling how aggressive they're being with the marketing. But personally, I'm enjoying everything that they've put out so far. I wasn't a big fan of They Fly Now, but I can overlook that. I'm excited. Yeah, episode 9, man. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think your point about the marketing is a very good point. I don't know if it necessarily... I'm not too sure if it's going to relate to the movie itself or whether it's because Solo failed and maybe they're just like really don't want two failures in a row. I think they definitely are pushing this very hard. Like it's like every 2 days there's like a little new TV spot and stuff. And for me personally, like I don't dislike the TV spots, but I think there's too much. I just am kind of sick of seeing too much. I just want it to be like in the dark a bit more. So it's definitely very aggressive, like you said, and maybe they're doing that out of one, they maybe just aren't sure if the movie's that great, or maybe it's to do with Solo failing, that they're kind of like, oh, we need this one to do really well. I'm not too sure, but it could mean that, or it could also just mean that it's a really good movie and they're trying to make the most of it. I don't really know, but it's definitely a good point that you bring that up.
Well, that was a good point with Solo, because Solo's marketing was the exact opposite. I feel like there was hardly any marketing at all. And I wasn't sure if that was because Lucasfilm just kind of assumed it would sell because it's got Star Wars in the name, or if... yeah, I don't know. I know they had some behind-the-scenes trouble, but it's definitely a different approach this time around, and we'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah, I think that actually could be part of it too, is that they may have learnt their lesson in that just having Star Wars in the title doesn't mean it's going to sell, because everyone thought the same. Like, we were all just like, oh, it's Star Wars, like it's going to make probably $1 billion, and that clearly didn't happen, so...
Oh, it fell way short of my personal estimates. I was thoroughly shocked at how poorly Solo did. I was expecting at least like 600,000, but it barely scratched half of that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It was kind of set for failure, if you ask me. It was one. I don't think that many people really asked for the story. Like, no,
yeah,
you know, I went into it like excited because it was Star Wars, but I didn't ever feel like I wanted to know Han's backstory. And if I did, it would be more like through comics or something. But
sure, that
combined with the fact that it was only like 6 months after The Last Jedi, which that I wouldn't say that failed, but it was very divisive and stuff. So it just kind of was set up for failure to me. It was just never gonna do well. But the thing is, no one predicted it. Looking back now, it's easy to say that, but at the time we were just like, oh, it's Star Wars, it's gonna do well regardless.
Right, and I mean, despite my feelings towards Episode 8, I actually really enjoyed Solo. I thought there was potential for sequels. I thought there was potential for maybe a TV show. I'm still deeply interested in the story of Kira and Crimson Dawn. I want to see what happens there, because I brought up Rebels earlier. We see Darth Maul in Rebels, and he's at the tail end of his story. Like, when we first meet Maul in Rebels, he's done with Crimson Dawn. He's been outcasted or whatever happened there, because we don't know. I want to know. I'm very interested in that story. Like, does Kira take over? Does she kick him out? Like, what happens? Like, there's a story there that needs to be told, and I'm into it.
Yeah, I think they planned on doing a sequel. Like, they set it up like it was almost like they were going to do a sequel, and because it failed, I think they may have pulled the pin. But now with Disney Plus, I would love a series to tie that all up, because, like you said, the Maul and Kira stuff is really interesting, because I know a lot of people say that like Darth Maul is used so often, but I don't know. I think he's a solid character to use, and that little gap in between Rebels and the Clone Wars, it's kind of like, it's weird to say he was kind of different between them all, and it was kind of, I just guess I want to know why he's doing the things he is and stuff like that. The only real consistent thing is that he wants to kill Obi-Wan, so like,
right, yeah,
all these little changes from, you know, being with Savage to then going to Crimson Dawn, it feels like there's just a lot of little stories there, which I'll definitely be keen on. The other thing too is that the loose end with Han and Kira does not make sense with Leia. Like, how we need to get an end to that story, because I don't think Han would just like get over Kira like that. I think she needs to like die or like betray him fully or something to make him move on, because I feel like he would just, you know, it's weird that he falls in love with Leia when there's this kind of like unanswered story out there. So that's another thing that I think I'd really need to, you know, hear the closure to that. And then I don't know, with Disney Plus, it just seems like that would be the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, I'd love to know about that too.
For the next question, what are some of the things that you're most intrigued about with Episode 9? Because like you said, you're coming from not really enjoying The Last Jedi all that much. So what about Episode 9, other than, I'm going to assume Palpatine's a big part of it, but other than that, like, what stuff has you the most intrigued?
Yeah, well, Palpatine is very intriguing. I wouldn't necessarily say he's the most intriguing because I was definitely more intrigued with Snoke in Episode 7 and 8 before he was unceremoniously killed off. So it's like, it makes sense because there was the villain problem, so they kind of had to introduce Palpatine again. But I'm still very intrigued with Snoke. Like, what was his whole deal? People will say that Snoke is not very important, but I highly, highly disagree. Snoke is the reason Ben Solo turns to the dark side. I mean, some will say it was Luke, but I mean, Snoke had his hooks in him before that. Snoke is the person in charge of the First Order. Snoke finds the Imperial Remnant and builds them into the First Order. Like, he's very important. I do not buy when people say he's not important, so I'm interested in that backstory. I'm intrigued with Rey and her lineage because I still think that's unexplained. I'm deeply unsatisfied with the explanation we got in Episode 8. I'm intrigued by the Knights of Ren. I'm intrigued with how Maz Kanata got Luke's lightsaber. I loved Episode 7, man. Like, pretty much everything introduced in 7, I want to see continued in Episode 9 because I didn't get it in Episode 8.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes me a little bit more excited, is that now that JJ's back doing this, I think he's going to, like, try and right those wrongs, because I think he knows that, like, Ryan didn't really touch on, like, there was just a lot of things that, like, was set up and we just don't know. Like, the Knights of Ren, the whole, Luke's saber, how did that get to Maz Kanata? Like, how can he set up all those things and then it didn't get, answers to it? Or the answers we did get with Rey, which, again, I don't think anyone liked that, to be honest. I'm not too fussed with it because I still thought, even if JJ wasn't doing this one, I still thought that was just Ben's, his thoughts on it. I think he wasn't lying, but I think maybe he doesn't know the truth or whatever. We don't know. Like, I feel like there was always more to that story. So even though I didn't really like the answer, I was still okay because there's one movie left. If that was the end, like, I would have been pretty mad. So
yeah,
I'm kind of the same. I think Rey's lineage is mainly what I want to know. Whether it's lineage or just, like, a reason, I'm not too sure. But I definitely just think, like, I really like Rey as a character, and I don't think she's as much of a Mary Sue as people say. But if they don't explain why, there is nothing that I can say that, goes against that. Like, that if they don't explain it in this movie, there's straight up no answer to me, for me to say that she's not a Mary Sue, because she's just so powerful and there's no reason for it, really.
Basically my thoughts exactly. Like, in Episode 7, I said it a couple of times, and then thinking back on it now, that was unfair because those were the plot points and the stories that were getting introduced. Like, okay, of course they're going to show, something crazy for us to later piece together later. And I just expected that to be revealed in Episode 8, I suppose. And let me talk about the lineage for a second, because the reason the lineage is important to people is because of Rey's power level. If she weren't so powerful, I don't think it would be such an issue. But the fact that she just closes her eyes, opens them, and all of a sudden there's these 1,000-ton boulders just floating all around her, and she's not breaking a sweat, when we've seen in Episode 2 Yoda struggle with a pillar that was maybe, I don't know, a fifth of the total mass that she was lifting. And of course, size matters not, but it's a little bit weird when we see a Force user who just found out she has the Force the day before do stuff like that. So
yeah, I think also the thing with that is, like, this straight comparison to the amount of rocks compared to Luke, because he can't even lift like 5 rocks in, I think it's in Empire. I don't think it's in, pretty sure that's in Empire when he's on Dagobah lifting the rocks.
Yeah.
Pretty sure if he can't lift 5, it is strange that she can lift so many rocks. And like you said, I don't know, maybe it's just not, maybe we're all looking into it too much, but I think that,
possibly,
like I said, I don't think she's as much of a Mary Sue as most people do, but it's almost undeniable that she is way too strong for just no backstory. And whether it's lineage or whether it's, like, there's the theories that she's like a clone, of Palpatine or some shit. Like, I don't want it to be that, but if there's at least some sort of reasoning, then that's fine. But for me, it's kind of the same. If it just doesn't get touched on, I'll be pretty mad with that, I think. And that was for me, The Last Jedi, that was like the main thing that I had an issue with. I I actually liked the movie. I didn't really have too many big issues with it. There was a lot of like the little, the humor and some of that stuff was like just not funny. But overall, I enjoyed it. But that I left pretty disappointed when I didn't hear about Ray's lineage. So for me, that's probably like one of the bigger things that I do hope gets answered, and it's definitely one of the most intriguing things, especially because JJ has actually kind of hinted that we will find out. Like, he kind of said there's more to the story than we know, so I guess we'll find out. But definitely a lot of little stories within the story that are definitely pretty intriguing.
Yeah, certainly.
Now, this question, looking at it now, it's kind of similar to what I was just saying, but what would you say your biggest question is leading into the movie?
How Rey fits into everything, because this is the Skywalker saga, and the only living Skywalkers right now are technically Ben, Solo, and Leia in the canon. So it's like, where does that leave Rey? She's kind of the hero of this whole trilogy, but if this is the Skywalker saga, it's like, how does she fit into that? And I guess that's my biggest question.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know if her being a Skywalker is what I want, but at the same time, like, I don't know how else she makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Unless maybe the story ends up being, maybe we've been tricked all along and maybe it's about Kylo. I don't know, but
honestly, I've had that thought, and if you look at the first, or 7 and 8, like through the perspective of Kylo and almost imagine it as his story, it kind of has a little bit of a different feel. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've kind of thought like could be possible, because like you said, he's really the only Skywalker left. I guess Leia, but like she's not going to be the main character, and 2, they haven't had as much focus on her anyway, so yeah, like it could end up being him. I have no idea, but if that's the case, they've just gone about it quite strange to try and make Rey, she's very clearly like the main character. But then again, maybe that's a big, like, it could be another big thing like Vader being Luke's dad. Like, maybe there's a big twist coming that we don't know, that's why they've kept Kylo as like looking like the villain, and maybe he is the hero. I don't know. There could be something like that, but it definitely seems like Rey needs to be explained anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like you said, I think she's a decent character. Like, she's not as bad as I think a lot of people chalk her up to be. Daisy Ridley's adorable. She knocks the role out of the park. I think Rey herself is okay. She just needs to be explained a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. And I think by the end of this trilogy, she could be, maybe some of her stuff will be forgiven, but it's definitely right now a little bit touchy, and that's for me, like the same as you. That's my main question, I guess, is how she fits into it, why she's so strong, and yeah, if she is related to someone, I definitely need to find that out.
Definitely.
Now, the last bunch of questions is just going to be relating to more like YouTube and your channel and just YouTube in general. So,
sure.
The first question for this is, when did you start your channel and why did you want to start it?
So the channel that is currently the Star Bazaar actually started as a music channel. I uploaded a bunch of vocal covers. They're actually still up there now. I think I forgot to make most of them private, so anybody who wants to search it up could actually go listen to my bad covers of metal music. But once I started playing Battlefront 2015, I really got into the franchise because I grew up with the classic Battlefront 2, so of course I was going to be drawn to Battlefront again. But once I started seeing content creators on YouTube make videos on this game that I love to play, I was watching their videos, and I think it was Star Wars HQ that I was watching at the time, and I was looking at the video, I'm like, there is nothing that these guys are doing that I can't do myself. And no disrespect to Star Wars HQ, but in my mind I was like, I can do this better. And so I started doing Battlefront videos and started growing a following, and I fell in love with it.
That is eerily similar to my story, honestly. Yeah. That is so similar. It was the exact same for me with Battlefront now. Battlefront Knight, sorry, now. He was obviously Quinn Knight at the time.
Quinn Knight back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, he, like, the whole, well, not the whole reason, but like a lot of the inspiration for me to do the hero guide stuff was because I was watching, when I got the game, I was not that good. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at hero guides, and he was kind of like the one who, I guess at the time, was I would almost say the only one doing it, like the only bigger guy doing
the hero guide.
So, yeah. So I was watching those, and I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, again, no disrespect to him, but I was just thinking like, I honestly think I can do this better. So I watched a bunch of them, and yeah, that's just where it started. Really, I just I'd always wanted to do it. Like I've been watching gaming on YouTube since I was probably like 12, so it's been like over 10 years. Yeah. But I just never I don't know, I always wanted to do it, but I never took the step. But then, yeah, I was really enjoying Battlefront, and I saw, very similar story to yours, and I just went, well, it's worth a try, and I guess it turned out pretty decent.
Yeah, definitely. Virtual high five.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed a lot lately, mainly since Fallen Order, but there's always been a bit of clickbait, but I feel like since Fallen Order, there's just been a lot of clickbait in the community. I know you kind of have different views, or I guess you'd say you're more lenient towards it, I guess. But what are your thoughts on the clickbait culture, not just in Battlefront, but just on YouTube in general?
Yeah. Well, I have a bit of an interesting opinion on this because I'm not a fan of downright misleading video titles, misleading thumbnails, where it's entirely set up just so you can click on it, but you're not really getting what you signed up for. I'm not in favor of that whatsoever. However, I also understand that in 2019, now 2020, on YouTube, there are certain things you have to do, and you have to do this if you want your videos to show through, and that is A, have an attractive title and thumbnail, and B, have interesting content enough to the point where people, when they click on your videos, they stay on your videos. YouTube analytics, it just goes to show that the most important thing is watch time. The longer people watch your stuff, the more YouTube serves it to other people. And it all starts with the click. So people aren't going to watch for a while unless they click on your video, and that's why clickbait is so effective. Channels who are, essentially quote unquote clickbait channels, it works for a reason, and I guess I am a little bit more lenient, and even I've kind of dabbled in doing some of the more clickbaity stuff, like making longer videos that are 10 plus minutes long, not necessarily for the extra ad revenue, which I could absolutely take advantage of, but more so because the YouTube algorithm likes it, and I know that it pushes those videos through more often. So it's kind of a give and take, and it's like, I know there are certain things that I have to do if I want my channel to succeed, but I also don't want to sell out and give up my reputation as, a good source for information and, a charismatic voice behind the mic that, gets people interested in the game. So there's a bit of a fine line. There's a balance that you have to walk.
Yeah, I think you put that pretty well, that it's a very, I guess you'd say, touchy thing to do, where it can really work, or, there are countless channels out there that it also maybe worked for a bit, but then it kind of backfires. So I think it's it's a tough one to talk about, because it is like you said, you made a lot of good points, that it is a recipe to success. People wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't working. So it is, it does have its positives, but at the same time, I feel like it's good for the short term and not so much for the long term. And I guess it depends on everyone's channel and what their goals are. Maybe some people just want to do it right now, and then when they finish school or whatever it is, they don't care. But at least for me anyway, I try to think more about the long term, and just think there's just so many channels out there with hundreds of thousands of subs that are getting the same amount of views as you and I are, and it's it kind of makes me think maybe that's to do with a lot of people subscribing, and then after a while they just go oh, these people are just doing clickbait after clickbait, and it kind of wears off. So it's kind of like you said, it's a give and take. It's kind of has its purpose, I guess, but you really do have to toe that line as much as you can, because if you do it one too many times, or you do a really bad clickbait or something, I think it's it really can hurt your channel more than it would make it succeed. And it's kind of like a big kind of like a high risk, high reward type of system, I guess.
Definitely. And my attitude about it is just to be honest as well and transparent. Like I've done this a couple of times where I was blatantly clickbaity with my title and thumbnail, but I owned up to it either in the video or in like a pinned comment or something. I'm like, enjoy the clickbait, like ha ha ha, you know, like playing it off lightly, but still owning up to it. It's like I'm not trying to hide and be like, no, this isn't clickbait. Just watch all 10 minutes of this. I promise I'll get to what you clicked for at the end. It's nothing like that. You know, people are more than welcome to click off whenever they want. The idea is to get the click, and then my hope is that I'm engaging enough and my video is good enough that people legitimately want to stay and subscribe and maybe watch another video.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And like you said, at the end of the day, I guess like maybe it gets talked about too much because, like you said, if someone doesn't like it, they can just click off. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I overthink it too much, but I'm just like I tend to be super careful with it when I can. But like you said, it maybe I don't know. Maybe I look into it too much. I don't know. I just it's mainly for me. It's like a situation where it can be really frustrating when, you know, you put in all the hard work and then like you see these bigger channels that just do one clickbait video and they get like, you know, double your views even though they've done no work for it. I think that's to me where it becomes an issue.
Believe me, I know that feeling.
Yeah, it's like I think that's my main issue with it. Not so much the act of doing it, but just like the frustration with it in regards to your own channel. I think I was saying this in my Discord the other day. It's kind of like that feeling of like, you know, say you work in an office job and, you know, there's a promotion offered by the boss, and let's just say the boss is YouTube in this situation. Everyone's working hard, everyone's doing their thing, and you're like the one working the hardest, but then there's 5 guys off to the side who are like sucking up to the boss and bringing in coffees and this kind of thing, and it's like they're doing the little, I guess, cheats to success, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just a frustrating situation. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's also the people who don't do it, it's also their decision to not do it. So it's like, it's almost, you can't really complain too much, I guess. If you don't buy into the game of YouTube, then yeah, at the end of the day, it's your fault if you don't do it, really.
I also like to be very specific. Like I should have started with this when we started talking about clickbait. I like to really define clickbait because a lot of the time I find people will say something is clickbait when it's really not. And I think it goes to show that a lot of people don't really understand what clickbait actually is. I kind of touched on it earlier when I talked about like misleading titles and misleading thumbnails. That is essentially bad clickbait, but there is also good clickbait. And this is something that I argue for quite a bit. Clickbait is very neutral. It all depends on how you use it. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. And in my opinion, bad is simply misleading. Is if, you know, you got a pair of nice looking boobs on your thumbnail, dudes click on the boobs expecting more boobs, and it's like a video of cats. It's like, what does that have to do with boobs? You know what I mean? Yeah. Not trying to get your podcast demonetized or anything, but
well, with this whole new not for kids thing, this might be a good thing anyway.
Actually, yeah, that's true. That's very true. But you see what I'm saying. It's like, I think with great power comes great responsibility, to quote Uncle Ben, not Ben Walk. But so yeah, that's my attitude about it. I think you can use it for good, you can use it for bad. It's how you decide to do it. Yeah,
that's definitely a good point on, like, at the end of the day, clickbait is a very subjective thing. Like, you might make a video that you don't think is clickbait and I do, or vice versa. And at the end of the day, none of us is really wrong or right because it's completely an opinion. At the end of the day, every video is clickbait. If you make a thumbnail, that is, you are trying to get people to click on your video, which is what it is. So, like you said, it's very, you know, it's almost like a complete grey area where, you know, there's certain things that are definitely clickbait, but at the end of the day, almost everything is. So, like I said, maybe I look into it a bit too much, I guess.
It's an interesting conversation either way. It's definitely a gray area, and I enjoy bouncing ideas off of a differing opinion too, so it's nice.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what would you say your 3 favorite things about having a channel are?
Number 1, I'd say I love that this is basically my job, that I can make, you know, a steady amount of money every month, doing something that I legitimately enjoy doing. one of the reasons I started doing YouTube was because I was just tired of the 9-to-5 rat race. I was miserable at my day job. I felt like I wasn't making any progress in life. And I'm a very artistic person. I was working a warehouse job. I was a machine operator. And I was good at my job, but I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't making me happy. It was making me miserable, in fact. And so as a more artistic person, I'm a musician, I'm in a band, I'm very artistically expressive. YouTube gives me an outlet to do that, and now I can get paid for it. Not many artists can say that, and that's really an awesome thing for me.
Yeah, it's a pretty special thing when you think about it. Like, it's a very 10 or 15 years ago, this would never have been thought that you could, sit in your room and make videos and actually make a living off it. That was no one ever thought that was going to be possible. So the fact that it's, I wouldn't say easily accessible, because you do have to be good enough at it and put in the time, but it's at the end of the day anyone can do
absolutely.
it. So it's pretty amazing that this is like a job for us, for especially guys of our size. Like I kind of thought when I started, like, you would have to have hundreds of thousands of subscribers to make it a job, and right now, like, I'm still at uni, so it's technically not my full-time job, but I don't have a job. Like, this is my main source of income. So it is crazy to think that at the size that we're at, we can do something that we very obviously enjoy doing and make a decent living off it.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed it says 3 favorite things, and that was just one. I can only really think of one more off the top of my head, and that's just the fact that I actually have a platform. I'm a musician, and more specifically, I'm a singer. I love being on stage, and I love being in the center of the spotlight. So the fact that I kind of have like my own stage on YouTube where the spotlight is entirely on me, I like that a lot. Strokes my ego a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think I think most people at some point like having attention. I'm actually quite the opposite, but like at the same time, I'm not going to say I hate attention. Like, it's obviously cool to just have your own your own platform where you can pretty much be the guy making the content, and all the people are commenting on your video and stuff. It is pretty cool, which coming from me, I'm kind of an introvert. I'm actually quite a quiet person, and I don't actually like attention very much, but
dude, I am king introvert. Like, having said that, I was about to follow up with that. Like, I'm very introverted too, so it's kind of an interesting position.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like
I don't got to put myself out there to get the attention.
It's like, I don't know, it's when, like, I remember telling my friends about my channel, and they were like, what the hell? Like, as if you would do that. Like, you're such a quiet person. So it's weird that you're like making videos for thousands of people. It's like a weird thing for me to do, but I don't know, it's I guess it's like a different type of attention. Maybe that's why we like it, because it's like we're still getting our attention, but it's not, like, I guess not in person is maybe the reason why. I'm not too sure, but yeah, that's definitely a good point there.
Right.
Now, what are, and this is another kind of loaded question. This is the last question too. What are your goals for the future of the channel, and just your life on YouTube in general?
Yeah. Good question. Stuff that I've kind of thought about, but not all the way. I have a goal. I have one, I think, fairly realistic goal, and that's to get 100,000 subscribers. I want that silver play button. Not necessarily just for, the plaque or whatever that silver play button's on, but also for the milestone, so that I know that myself, I turned a Star Wars gaming channel into 100,000 subscribers strong. And I know it's possible because there are other 100K plus channels out there. We mentioned Battlefront Night, we mentioned Star Wars HQ, like, they've all got tons of subs talking about this game, and so I think it's a realistic goal, and I would like to achieve it at one point. But besides YouTube, I recently, as of a couple months ago, joined a new band, and that has really taken up a lot of time. If there's ever any gaps in my uploads, it's because I'm dedicating days on end to the band. I'm currently in the middle of writing a full-length album with them. I'm actually in the studio recording that album. Once that's finalized, we have 3 music videos that are currently being edited, waiting on the final song. We're going to go on tour once everything is finalized. We're going to go label shopping. Like, there's a lot happening with the band, and that's taking up a lot of time, but it's looking awesome. So between the band and YouTube, I'm kind of loving life at the moment.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting, man. That's like that's like a childhood dream for a lot of people, even if it's not like large scale, just to be able to go on tour and stuff. That's definitely pretty cool. So I'm very excited for you for that.
Thanks, man. And like, this is actually the biggest band I've ever been a part of, so it's actually not as small scale as I may have made it sound. Like, it's pretty intense.
That's pretty awesome, and especially to have like that and YouTube on the side. It's almost like you're gonna have, you know, two different things that you can focus on so much that can take you so far, and either both of them can work out, or if one fails, like, you've still got this other thing that can do really well for you. So seems like you've definitely like figured all that out pretty well.
I wouldn't say figured it out, but we're at least going for it.
At least trying. That's all you can do anyway, I guess.
Yep.
Well, that is going to do it for the questions for today. I wanted to give you a massive thank you for coming on.
Dude, yeah, my pleasure. I apologize for not making it last time. I remember we tried to get this going and something fell through, but
yeah, no, it's always a hassle, especially you know, being in Australia. The time zones are like, it's so hard to. The last one I did, I was awake I had to get up at like 3 a.m. or something, so it's always going to be a bit of a hassle. But
what time is it now for you?
Right now it's nearly 11 a.m., so it's actually a good time for me. But yeah, it's always going to be hard. So last time that was just you know, that stuff happens every now and then, but it was good to finally get you on, and this has definitely been probably one of my favorites. I think we've covered some good stuff, so thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, man, this was fun. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm going to leave a link in the description for the Star Bazaar's channel. I think you're like really close to 30k, aren't you? You're like 29.5 or something, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're just under like 500 subs until 30k. My goal is 30k by the end of 2019, and I think we'll hit it.
Damn, well, I will leave the link down below, and you guys heard that there. If you aren't subbed to Star Bazaar, go check him out. He's not, you know, I'm not just saying that because it's your goal. You are, in my opinion, one of the better channels in the community. There's a lot of channels out there that, I don't know, don't put in that much effort, but I feel like you do put in a lot of effort. And not only that, but I remember when, I don't know how many subs I had. I feel like I had like 100 back in the day, and you gave me that first shout out that honestly like started the ball rolling for the channel. So that was, yeah man. I kind of still owe you for that in a way. So hopefully I can help you reach your goal of 30k, which, like you said, I think that's almost certain to happen because you've been on fire lately.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm looking at the analytics. Based on the rate we're going right now, I think we'll hit it.
Love it. Well, that is going to do it for this one, guys. I want to thank you all again for tuning in. Make sure to sub to the Star Bazaar, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.